Hey, you heard it here first. They're like, sir, there's a guy here for a meeting about a duck hunt movie.
Yeah.
What?
Sold.
Let him in.
Pitched. Done.
Well, it'd be like, what the fuck's duck hunt? They're like, well, you are 35 running a studio.
Right. Yeah. Oops.
I had a meeting years ago in it's funny about age. I had a meeting with an agency, like when I moved back to LA, like it was a mid-level, talent agency. And I'm not going to name it, but it rhymes with KMR. And but what's funny is they don't know. It's like Cindy Kazarian's, it's kind of an old school agent, like, goes way back, like almost to my original days. Anyway, KMR is now the legacy of this agency literally goes all the way back to my very first agency, which was Wormser, Helfon, and Joseph, which is actually an offshoot of the Jack Wormser agency, which is one of the first power half agency. Like Jack Wormser was like this big agent in the 50s and stuff. So I know the pedigree of like the office I'm sitting in, and I don't even meet with the head of the department. Like they give me the new hire to have a sit down with, and this kid, like we talked for 45 minutes, and the only thing that I realized that we could talk about was Ohio State, because that's where he's from, and he had zero idea of anything like before 1999. And I was like, "What the fuck old are you?" and it was great. I'm glad you have this job, but like, you want to switch? It's like,
right.
And so it was even funnier that like they passed. They didn't want to work with me. They were like, "No, we're good." And even in the meeting, they're like, "Well, we have a lot of people like you on our roster." And I said, "I know your roster. You don't have anybody." I was like, I actually know two of your clients, and they're old. Like, you don't have any. I was like, "Yeah, that's okay. I've got," and I kind of pulled out an asshole. I was like, "Well, that's okay, because you know what? I'm going to go because I got to go get up early to get on a plane because I'm going to a convention where about 1,000 people are going to stand in line to take my photo. Have a great day. Bye."
Right. That'll do
But you have a lot of me on your like you don't. You don't.
Yeah.
And what they meant was like middle-aged white dude, scruffy face, and some TV credits. I was like, "No, dude, you don't get it." I was like, "That's what frame of reference is." Anyway, that was like 10 years. That was like 10 years ago. This guy's like, he's like running like Hollywood now. I'm sure it's great.
Oh, probably. And that man was Dave.
It would explain a lot, that's for sure.
Yeah, his name was Haslet Zamich Sandwich Zavliceki, something like that. Yeah.
Hazlitt Sandwich. I like that.
Haslet Sandwich. Swinson Samsonite. I was way off. I was way off. I was way off. Were we going to talk about anything, or am I just going to ramp? Like, what do you? It's your guys' show. Welcome to the. This is Fallout, the podcast.
We were really hoping you'd come on and pitch a duck hunt movie, and then you did that first thing. So I guess we're just choosing the shit now.
Asshole dog laughing at
Andre,
you.
who are you going to play in the duck hunt movie? That's the important question. Are you the dog?
I think I'm the narrator.
Oh, okay.
There you go.
And the dog's character is just named Dog.
Oh, that's 100%.
Because
that's good.
he's not. He's just the dog, and like his social commentary, he just comes up and just laughs at you.
That's it.
That dog was a dick.
Yeah,
he was.
We did. That's why he's chained up by a chain to the trailer.
Yeah, right. That's what the movie's going to explore. Is what made him. It's going to be
dick of a dog.
It's like Joker. We're going to have a lot of empathy for the dog. And
it's Joker meets Homeward Bound.
Look, guys, it's like Cujo meets Joker. Okay.
Right.
We did also want to talk about the Monster Squad.
I've heard of that too.
I was excited because I got to go.
On it.
I went to the screening that we did here in LA, and I told these guys, I was like, I'm going to see the Monster Squad in 35 millimeter. And Andre's doing a Q&A afterwards. I'm going to ask him if he'll do the podcast. And they were like, fuck yeah, Godspeed. And then a few weeks later, now here we are, and it's pretty amazing. So thank you for that.
Yes.
What I loved about that was also Stephen Mock just happened to be there. not booked for the Q&A, like a ticket holder. And they were like, hey, do you want to go up on stage since you played his dad? And great Q&A. But you told some really fun stories about the behind the scenes of making that movie that I wanted to share with these guys, but I was like, I'd rather watch Andre tell them and then just see their reactions.
Okay.
So
you got to remind me which one. So
the one in particular that I thought was great was you talked about how the Monster Squad was a movie filled with setups where the punchlines were edited out, or punchlines where the setups were edited out. And one in particular was where the crazy German guy says, if I was a vampire, I wouldn't have a reflection, see? And then what that leads to is a pretty fun story about a character who we end up never seeing, who got cut from the film.
Oh, right. Yeah, that's it's probably the whole, any good story is a series of setups and payoffs, right? There's beginning, middles, of ends, of course, when you're making something, but good movies are there's setups and there's payoffs, and whether it's inside of a scene or an act or from the beginning of a movie to the end. And Monster Squad and the final version that we see on screen is a series of setups that you don't get the payoffs, and it's a series of payoffs that you don't know are payoffs because you never got the setup. And that is, I think, due to, a number. It happens a lot in filming movies and stuff, and things get cut or scenes get shot and they get edited out. But we shot off of like a very short script anyway, and then like pages were just kind of flying out as we were going, and for time and budget and things like that. And I think this is one of the regrettable, omissions that didn't get done, because I think it lends into, because everybody always asks me, it's like, what's missing, or what are your things that aren't in there that you wish were? And well, one is something that has nothing to do with me or even my character or the other. Is that this is a preface to your answer, Josh.
Yeah.
At the beginning, there's a crawl and it says blah blah 100 years ago they blew it.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
We'll take your word for it.
Yeah,
I guess they blew it back then. We don't ever see, because that's a setup.
Yeah.
And we don't get to see how they blew it and why it ties back in. And so my two biggest, kind of lamentations are that at the beginning, 100 years ago, there's a scene where, in the olden days with Van Helsing and his merry band of marauders, they capture Dracula, and they capture him, by his castle out in the wood. And there's a great scene, this great photo that I actually have of them staking Duncan Regeer up against a tree. Like, they kill Dracula and they stake him. Because awesome. I have this like production still from behind the shoulder of Van Helsing, and he's like, and Duncan's like, It's a great shot. And I'm like, oh, this is wicked. This is really cool. And then you see the movie and you're like, wait, where's that scene?
Yeah.
So one, that's a cool bit. But so they stake him and then they put him in a wagon and go up to the castle to do the limbo thing, supposedly. And so we do the limbo thing, but then you flash back and this scene was shot, and you can find it. It used to be on YouTube, or it's on the deleted scenes of the original first or second Blu-ray or something. I don't know. Where they have Dracula's body in a wagon, and the band is off, doing the castle thing, and they leave I always called him a Van Helsing red shirt, and to guard the wagon by this campfire. And while they're off there, like out of the woods, out of the mist, come three vampire brides, and he goes, oh, and he steps up and goes and shoots one with his crossbow, and she goes down. The other one's a little closer, and he says, I got you. And then the third one's like on him and choking him, and he's desperate and he's flailing around, and he's up against the wagon. His hand finds purchase on a stake. He grabs it and kills her and goes, aha, I won. But of course, the stake he grabs is the one that's in Dracula in the wagon. And we all know if you unstake a vampire, he comes back alive. So he's like, ha, I got you, ladies. And then Duncan sits up in the wagon and looks at him. So Dracula gets away.
Damn, that's awesome.
And that's how they blew it.
Yeah.
And so, which leads to my favorite story is like, I want a show, like I want to know, like everybody's like, what about a sequel and all this stuff? I'm like, yeah, that's cool. I want to know what Dracula was doing for 99.9 years.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
From that moment until our day. That's a cool show.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
And so that's how they blew. So that's a setup here. And then, of course, the thing I lament is the beginning of the present day stuff with all the kids, which includes me, of how much they know about these topics and this literature and the lore and the history and the fictional stuff and the movies and the mythology and everything. Like these kids, like they're not just dorks. Like they're informed dorks.
Yeah.
Like they are. They know what they're talking about. And I kind of like, I think I've kind of lived my life as an informed dork, and I kind of liked that. But I was like, I don't just spout off like one thing. I know a ton of shit about nothing.
Right.
It's great.
Yeah.
That no one else cares about.
That's what makes them so relatable.
No one cares.
That's
no one
right.
gives a shit
So,
about it.
So we don't get a lot of that because we're just all of a sudden we're with the kids and the story goes, which is not a bad thing. Okay. So we're in the middle of the second act, I think. And, we go to this house because we're tracking down the amulet. And in the original script, as we go into this house, there's a guy there. And we're like, who are you? And he's like, who are you? He's like, well, we're here trying to help. Maybe you can help us. He's like, oh, great. I'm here. And I think it was someone like he's like, I'm Abraham Van Helsing's great grandson or something. Or either he was like a real estate agent, like putting house. And I can't remember which. It's one of those two. And he's like, well, maybe you can help me. And like, well, maybe you can help us. Like, oh, okay. Now someone that believes that was sort of the point because the kids are informed or they know all this stuff. None of the adults are paying attention. They don't get it. All this shit's happening in town. And then we finally see an adult who understands this and gets it. And we're like, oh, finally. And so we're in this house. And I can't remember if like it's right when we walk in or if we get, into the house a little bit. But the group, and I remember it well because it was Sean character, in the description says, and Sean, as we walk into this house, we go by this old dusty, cracked mirror, and everybody's there except for this guy.
Oh shit!
And I think Fred has it. Originally, it's like there's just like this floating face, like this guy's wearing a mask. And so Sean, because we know all of this stuff, and we just got the setup a couple scenes prior with Scary German Guy, vampires don't have reflections. Got it. Now here's the payoff. We're like, oh shit. Now we know we're in trouble. And so I'm like, we got to get out of here. And then it turns into an episode of Scooby-Doo where we're going through trap. Now we're all trying to get out of this house. And instead of leveling up, we level down and keep going through like slides and trap doors and running around and jumping and stuff. And every level we end up on, we encounter one of the monsters. So it's like this 3-story kind of 4-story type of thing. Like we run into all of them, and it culminates with us like with the amulet, and then Wolfman's blocking our way and kick him in the nards, and that's where the payoff is, and we get out. But it's this whole long scene. Well, the guy that they had, and I think Josh, this is your this is your point, right? Your payoff to the story. The guy they had, for that role. Was there like on set for like the day or two that we were, and this really should have been like a 5-day shoot of this scene, really. When how movies work.
From the sound of it,
and I mean it's like 3 levels. It's the episode you're going indoors, flying around, jumping around, going through trap doors, stuff like that. This guy was on set to play this character, and it happened to be a dude that they had auditioned, which happens. But didn't get the role he auditioned for. And he was there to audition for Dracula. And they were like, oh, we like this guy, but Duncan Regehr, we cast him as Dracula. But we've got this smaller role. What about this guy? He was really cool. He kind of fits the bill. And he was this Irish actor named Liam Neeson.
What?
No way.
So yeah, Liam, he was there like all waiting, and they never shot this character. And so it's that's kind of a cool payoff that we get. So not only do we not get that Scooby-Doo scene and a longer, because the movie would have been 10 minutes longer just with this one scene,
right?
And but Liam Neeson's not in it, but he was there on set apparently.
That's wild.
For the day or two. And
So they just decided not to film that.
I think they were, unbeknownst to me, that they're sitting there rewriting it or cutting pages and throwing pages out and left and right and, kind of doing it on the fly. And so they kind of, what they did is they mushed all of that Scooby-Doo episode into that lobby level of the house, and one trapdoor, which was still an elaborate build and a thing and a stunt, and we actually went through a trapdoor. That was kind of
Yeah.
Wow.
I literally just watched that and was like, they went through that trapdoor.
We did, yeah. They all three. What is it? Three of us? Yeah, three of us and the dog. Yeah,
and the dog.
And
yeah.
the dog.
I think the dog went through it too.
The dog was like, wait, what's going on here?
Yeah, and but it's a great because it's all of that gets mashed into that one first floor of that weird house.
Yeah,
and
that's awesome.
Which was just on, I think, the back lot of Universal.
It'd be hilarious if Liam Neeson like secretly held a grudge all these years later, just pissed.
Yeah, he's like, it took me much longer to get my career going. I could have played the real estate agent.
Yeah,
he was that close to playing Dracula twice. Like that's right. That's so
yeah.
You're not going to play Dracula the whole time. We'll give you a minute.
He goes, I just did Crawl. I'm on a roll. It's like, this is it. Like this. Yes, this is or it was the best thing that ever happened to him. Then he became Liam fucking Neeson. Because if he had done this, he may have not have been Liam.
The butterfly effect.
20 years later, he becomes Liam Neeson.
That's right. I make that joke all the time because I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing. Everybody always talks about casting and who's in this movie and all that. And by the way, like, we'll get it. Like, I never auditioned for the role of Sean.
Really?
Wow.
Yeah. So that's a whole other story. Okay. I auditioned and screen tested for Rudy. Because of my body of work leading up to that, I was the cool kid with the great hair and the leather jacket and the swagger.
Right.
Yeah. And I read for Rudy, but Ryan Lambert walked in and murdered his auditions and became Rudy, in the moment. And now, years, of course, we know, I know what happened in that. I wasn't in the room when Ryan was there, but he was. And so we tell the story. It's a great story. And that's what happens. Same thing with Duncan and Dracula. I think he just became Dracula in the moment. Luckily for me, weeks later or whatever, when they're finally deciding who they need to cast as Sean, and everybody in town, and not even in town, everybody in LA and New York of age that is somebody or nobody is reading for everything, including Monster Squad. Wow. And luckily they went through the process and were like, well, we got to cast the lead. And, we read everybody in town. We haven't made a decision. And I still don't know who it was. So whether it was Penny Perry, the casting director, or Jonathan Zimberg, or Peter Hyams, or Fred, I'd like to think it was Fred, but it probably wasn't. Could we take the gel out of that kid's hair and put him in some clothes that don't fit? And could he be Sean? And someone said, yeah, that's our lead. Usually they call you back in and say, hey, okay, let's read these scenes. And that didn't happen. They just straight cast me out of my Rudy auditions for Sean.
Wow.
And I didn't know, when my agent, not that kid that I was talking about earlier, but the kid wasn't even alive at this point. When they called and said, hey, you got cast in that movie you read for, a month ago or so. And I'm like, oh, okay. Well, the first question is which one? Because you're usually auditioning for 3 a week.
Right.
And that's just features. You got TV and it's bonkers. And they go, no, that monster thing. I'm like, oh yeah, cool. They're like, all right. And like, yeah, but not the role that you read for. And that's usually a bad sign.
Right.
Because they liked you, but someone else is better. So they're giving you a smaller role. Yeah. Yeah. And by this time I had read the whole script and I'd been back there half a dozen times, auditioning and reading the script. And I know everybody in this movie. And I'm like, oh, they cast me as one of the assholes. They gave me the role of EJ. Like I'm the EJ.
Oh right. No!
Yeah. And I'm one of the bullies. And I'm like, oh, and like no. They cast you as the lead. And I'm like, no, Rudy's the cool character. Like that's the one. And so it was sort of the thing. And they're like, no, you don't understand. I'm like, No, but Rudy's the cool. He
Rudy's
kills
the
all the
cool
monsters. He
Kid
gets through it.
reaction, right?
So
Yeah.
it's kind of parallel with Liam Neeson there, but and then by that time, shortly after that, they had narrowed it down to like an LA choice and a New York based choice for the role of Patrick. And Robbie Kiger is the only kid that I had actually known out of the group, really. Even though it's a smaller world and you kind of know everybody, but Robbie and I kind of grew up, we're the same age, and always auditioned for the same stuff. Had known each other for years, and but they called and said, "Okay, we have the New York choice. He's coming out for the final screen test. He's from Philadelphia, but he's flying out with his mom, and you need to. We're gonna send you a card. Like you got to hang out with him all day. Like go to the mall and go to lunch and maybe see a movie or something and hang out with this kid." And I'm like, "What?" And they're like, "Yeah, just to get the vibe and see, what's, And I'm like, "Okay." And so I get to the Beverly Center, which is in West LA, to spend the day with this kid from Philadelphia and his mom. And I meet this kid. He's got like the shock of red hair, and he is literally like, you ever seen that July 4th where the whole like 20-minute fireworks show goes off in 90 seconds?
Right.
You ever seen that?
Yeah.
That's like, to me, that's this kid.
Oh wow.
And I'm like, okay, I'm high energy. Like, what is like? This kid is amazing. And I'm like, oh my god, like whoa. I mean, it's just back man. Let's do this, and I don't even know this kid. And I was like, wow. And so I mean, they asked for my 2 cents, and I was like, I mean, I don't know. This kid was like, he was cool, and but it was like really like high energy, like a comedy kid. And I was like, and I know Robbie, like, I don't know, like, it's not my decision. And lucky, I don't know. Like I said, this is the Liam Neeson, the Liam Neeson effect, or the Mandela Neeson effect, that or the butterfly effect. It's the butterfly Liam Neeson of Monster Squad effect.
Right.
That whether he got this movie or not, but we always joke, and he does a great interview in the documentary. Because he didn't get the role of Patrick, but because of this particular screen test, and that was like the second time or third time he had ever come out to LA to screen test for something, and ended up staying and moving to LA, and he became Seth Green.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
As
So,
soon as you said the documentary, I was like, I know who it is. I suddenly know who
so
it is.
it's that's why that's one of my favorite interviews in the documentary, because Seth gets to tell his audition story about not getting it,
Right.
but then this was seminal, like very important in his kind of overall, origin story, because he had worked quite a bit as a kid, and bit role in movies and stuff, out of New York, and then came to LA, and and then luckily for us, like, he became Seth Green. So it's like everybody, the world was like that guy. So
You're not kidding, man. He is so high energy. We met him at Spookala last year.
Last June.
And like, he's so cool. He's always on though. Like, it's just like, he's such a consummate showman. Like, he knows exactly the story that you need. It was incredible.
We got to we did some shirts for Idle Hands and got to give it to him, and like the look on his face was like, holy shit, people care. And took a look at the shirt and was so appreciative, and then immediately just starts, like, obviously we're fans of that movie, and it's like, okay, here's story time. And then it just kept going and kept going. And it was, the guy's personality is so, I mean, he's for such a little guy, he has such a larger than life personality.
That tank is I think what it is like, he runs off 0 point energy. Like, he doesn't need a tank. Like, he just, like, my tank's big. I don't think I'd love to run off 0 tank energy, and I'm nonstop, but I guess my tank, or I can refill it or something, maybe because it's, I'm an iced tea fiend or something. But Seth, I think he just has like a 0 point energy cartridge in his pocket all the time. And, what's great about that is, he's moved out and stayed. And so when you're of a certain in a group, like, everybody forever, and you grew up with each other. And, I ended up working, seeing Seth and whatever. And, this kid started working, left and right when he got to LA. He was working a lot out of New York, but it's hard to live in Philadelphia and work out of New York. It's not, but like, living in LA is where you got to be. And he came out here and just smashed it. because he had a thing, like he had that energy, he had that. I was talking about this on another show a couple weeks ago, and it's probably problematic, as the kids say today, to even talk about what I'm talking about. But the reason musicians make it, the reason hip hop artists make it, the reason actors make it, or singers or comedians, they have it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
they have something. That's the whole point.
Yeah,
and not everybody has it. Right. But like, we got to give everybody a chance. So let's make reality television. Like, no. And that's manufactured it, but it's not it. It's shit.
Yeah.
Right.
And it's you can use that. That's pretty good. That's right off the cuff. And but what they don't understand is, because I come from this particular small thing of growing up from a very, very young age with, a bunch of the same kids, and some are my age, some are younger, and some are older, of extremely talented kids. Like, no matter what their thing was. And a lot of them were multi-hyphenates. Like, okay, they were, maybe they were stand-up comedians, but they could also, they could tap dance and play the piano, right? Or this is a dancer that could dance her ass off, but then also win a beauty pageant and then like go do a sitcom, and or cry her eyes out with some adult actor, as just a kid in this movie with a small role. And these are all the kids I grew up with, and I was always, I don't want to say jealous, because I held my own in different areas, but I was always in awe of a lot of these really talented kids. Because I'm not music. Like, I can't. The coolest thing and the best thing that humans ever invented was music, and I don't have the music thing.
Yeah,
but I love music, right? And I understand what the power of it is. I just can't play it. It's like I tried to teach myself guitar like 10 times. I was like, this ain't happening, and it's just tough. So I see all these kids that are musicians and singers. Like, it doesn't get any better. You stand up there, whether you have an instrument or not, and you can sing a song and you're good. And like, that's the dream job. And I grew up with all these kids that are like that. And then people like Seth, since we're talking about him, and these, comedians, 10-year-old stand-up comics,
right?
You're like, what?
Yeah. And you have the life experience in order to pull that off at 10, but somehow you do.
Right. I mean, it's super funny. And, it's some of it's really corny and lame, but some are great memories. And, it's like, me and my wife we used to laugh, because our very first convention that we ever did, when everything started off again, was Monster Mania in New Jersey. And we were like, the Monster Squad cast was co-headlining Monster Mania with the cast from Saw. And we're like, well, that's a pretty big movie. It was like, okay. And so we're the two casts there, and like Shawnee Smith's there. And I was like, oh my God, I haven't seen Shawnee Smith in like, I don't know, 200-300 years. Right. And I'm like, wow, shit. I'm like, Shawnee, what's going on? She's like, oh my God, what's going on? I was like, and then I was telling a story. I was like, there used to be two places in LA that had like kid showcases on the weekend. And one was at this bar comedy thing in the Valley called the Laugh Stop. And like on Saturdays, they had like this kid showcase where like there was dancers and singers and piano players and tap dancers and Shawnee Smith used to do this like modern ballet dance to Send in the Clowns.
What?
And it was just something that's really stuck in my mind of her, like in this kind of ballet outfit and doing this interpretive ballet. And she ended it like, it was just, I remember like she sent in the clown. And it's just the funniest thing to me that I remember that. And then now she's like in the biggest horror franchise.
Right.
And, but I'm like, that's Shawnee Smith. Like, she was also in a really funny show called Becker that like it was on forever, but nobody watched. It was like, she was hilarious on that show. And I was like, yeah, she can also dance. But, and I'm like, and this is kind of a tangent, but if you like stories that wrap around and connect, the other place in town when we were growing up was a famous rock bar called the Roxy on Sunset Boulevard.
Ooh, okay. Yeah.
And it's right next to the Rainbow. It's right next to the Whiskey go, and then there's the Roxy. But it was either Saturday or Sunday at like noon or 1 p.m. There was like this 3-hour showcase that was just full of all these kids that did a show. Like, the show had a script and the thing, but everybody had the individual acts. There was a band called like, it was bonkers. So many famous kids came out of the show. And the cool thing about it is in the early days of that show, someone was there and they either plucked these kids out of it for the show. They had a show and it came here and found these kids, but it originated from the show. And there was Marta Marrero, Jerry Sherrill, Renee Sands, Rashawn Patterson, and Stacey Ferguson were all these little kids in this show. And Marta Marrero, of course, became Martika. And Stacey Ferguson was Fergie. And so these are all the kids that grow up, but these 5 kids got plucked out of the showcase to do a Disney show on Saturday called Kids Incorporated.
Yeah.
Oh okay.
Yeah. And so it's basically that they put these in, they did the show. And after the first season or second season, they replaced Jerry Sherrill, who was a phenomenal talent, just, great singer and, just performer. And they held an open audition somewhere in town for, a new role on this, song and dance show that had only been out for a year or so. And a kid that, lived out and, north of LA that was into, really liked, performing and musical theater and trying to do community theater and stuff, caught wind of this open audition for this musical performance show and told his mom, I said, I want to go try out for that. She's like, what? Oh, wait, let me do a Marlene impression. What? And so they drove to this thing, and I guess it was the first thing he ever auditioned for and walked in and got it. And that was Ryan Lambert to be the new male lead kid on Kids Incorporated.
Well, that makes
And then like 2 years later, the second thing he ever auditions for is the role of Rudy in the Monster Squad, and gets that. So this kid's batting 1,000. And we've all been in the industry for 13 years now. And,
right.
a batting average of 210 is really good in this business. Right.
Right.
And, this kid's batting 1,000. Like, what?
Brian's like, acting's not that hard. I don't know what everyone's talking about.
kind of full circles to, Monster Squad and Ryan and people that read for roles that, you don't expect. And growing up in this era with all these kids that are just, these, kind of talented kids with it. And look, Seth was one of them. Marta was one of them for sure. Damn sure Stacey Ferguson was one.
Right.
Yeah. And I always crushed on Renee Sands. I had the biggest crush on Renee. And but I knew this is where everything happened. And I'm sitting around going, oh, these kids can sing and they can dance and all this other stuff and stand up. Like I always thought stand up was funny, and I'm funny. I can do funny. And but stand up's a different punishment. That's a different.
Oh yeah.
And it's like you wait all these stand-up comics in the show, like Mark Price and Skippy from Family Ties, and has just been a touring comic for 100 years. And one of the coolest things in this showcase. We'll never talk about me in the show, guys. I'm just telling you that. Because these kids are so much more interesting. And there was a house, a band that played all the songs and the thing. They were phenomenal. Every single musician and singer were just top shelf. And they had this wonderkind, 10-year-old drummer who ended up, he'd been on the Tonight Show 3 times or something. His name was Jimmy Keegan, and he was ridiculous. It was like a 10-year-old drummer. And you're just sitting and watching these guys shredding on guitars and playing drums. And then they added this other drummer a few years later. His name was Josh Freeze.
Oh,
and if anybody knows rock drummers, Josh Freeze.
Yeah.
And, in little bands like A Perfect Circle and the new fighter, the new Foo Fighters.
No big deal.
No big deal. And, but just go to show, I don't think Dave Grohl would hire a shitty drummer.
No. I
not to replace Taylor
He might
Hawkins.
have some personal thoughts on it.
Yeah. And, which Taylor Hawkins, talk about someone who had it, that guy did, because I saw him
seriously
when he was young in literally, I think it was the second or third time. Okay, here's another cool story. So I'm in Vegas at that time in 1997 or something, whenever it was. And Alanis Morissette's first video had just dropped on MTV. This is back when MTV had music on it.
Right.
And I was like, oh, who's this cool chick? Like, this is awesome. Like, I dig this gal. And lo and behold, you read in the paper or something, or, if you were on Netscape, you saw that Alanis Morissette is playing a show in Las Vegas. And it was like 2 nights. I was like, oh, shit. So I went to the grocery store and stood in line at the Ticketmaster booth. And this is how we used to do it.
Yeah,
and I got a ticket at this bar that was like behind the Mirage. And I go in, of course, it says, 7 o'clock. And I was like, I still do it. Like, it's a 7, like doors are at 7. The band comes on at like 10.
Right.
And I still don't understand that. So I go at 7 and I'm sitting there. No one in there. I'm there for like an hour by myself. And it's a stage with a little dance floor. It's got like high top tables and like booths in the back, and it's a bar with a stage.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting, of course, I like to get somewhere early because the real estate. Like I want the good real estate. And because I'm not good at a GA show, like where you have to stand with a bunch of people because I'm not tall. And I'm like, yeah, this sucks. So I'm sitting at this great high top, kind of right in front of the stage. I'm like, yeah, I'm sitting here, and now the place is filled, and these 2 older ladies come in. They're probably like 35, and they're looking around like I can tell they don't want to stand. And I was like, hey, would you like to sit here because no one's at my like you look like, oh, they're like, oh my God, that's amazing. And they sit down and she goes, I'm so excited. My son's in the band. And I was like, your son's in the band. Wow. This is so cool. He's like, he's so excited. This is the biggest thing ever. Like, he's so excited. I'm like, oh my God. Okay, cool. Well, I'm excited because I dig her videos. Like, no, this is so exciting for everybody. I was like, okay. So I'm sitting with these 2, and I think the other lady was a friend or an aunt or something. And so like the show comes on and she comes, I'm like, oh my God, there's that girl. It's like she's singing. And I'm like, wow, she has got this otherworldly vibe when she performs live. Yeah. Like she really does. Like she stands alone, great live show. And this is early. So it's just raw and not put together yet.
She's still real pissed at Dave.
Yeah, I know she is. And so I'm watching behind her, and I'm watching this kid with this hair that just looks like a helicopter. And he's just thrashing on the drums, looking like he is like a puppy in a mud puddle. And I'm like, she goes, my son's the drummer. I'm like, and I turned to this lady and I said, the first source that comes in, I said, your son is going to be a megastar. Yeah. She's fantastic. Yep. That's already a given. Your son is phenomenal. And it's not just his musical ability. It is he had this just thing flying around him, like this presence. And I don't even know how old he was in 97. What was he, 16 or something? I don't know. Yeah, he was young. He might have been older. I don't know the actual date. But I'm like, your son is going to be an absolute megastar. Yeah. And I wish I had gone to the sports book and put $5 on it. But,
right. Yeah.
Oh my God, he's so excited. And then I was like, no, it's like no problem. And then he becomes drummer with the Foo Fighters. So that's a big loss. But another young, something. But then Josh Free, this, I don't know. Yeah. This is an Andre tangent again. But it's cool.
That's right. The whole podcast is every
I can tie it back to having it, and that's definitely it. So we're growing up and around all these kids, and I was always, these are all my best friends, and they're all great, and we all love each other to death. And I was like, damn, I'm kind of one-dimensional. And I'm just the kid that has great hair. It can say a funny line. And but then I didn't, it kind of comes back because I was always the coordinated athletic kid that played all the cool sports. So everybody's like, Andre's the basketball player, and he plays. Then I'm like, okay, I'll take that. That's great. So
yeah, but only you and Ryan were at Monster Squad, dude.
It's true.
And everybody else read for it and didn't get it. That's right.
Yeah, exactly.
But Seth including Seth. Literally a few years later when he had Stephen King's It.
That's
right. Just another.
But one final thing on Seth Green is he came there, became Seth, and his energy's still there, and he's still that amazing, kind of conduit of vibe. But he really is still to most, and to me especially, a super genuine, really nice guy. Always glad to see you. We'll text back and hit you up. And I tapped him years ago for something right when I moved back to LA, and I was shooting a proof of concept thing for a TV show concept. And instead of just going in a room with a pitch deck and an idea, I decided to shoot the episode.
Nice.
And you know, because that's what dumbasses do. And usually it's like a previs with your phone or a shitty camera, and like they like, this is kind of the concept. And I was like, no, I built a set for 3 days, and I had a sound stage for 5 days, and had a stunt guy, and we had a 4-minute fight scene. It was bonkers. And I needed Seth to come in, and because in my mind when I was writing the version that we actually did, I was like, because there's sort of like this reveal, the door opens and someone's standing there, and it's like, it's got to be someone that has a reason to be there, but also that you go, oh, that's so and so.
Right.
And I kind of needed, and I called Seth, and he was like, where do you need me to show up on? So I had Seth show up on a Saturday and Sunday for like 12 long hour days. And he actually hadn't acted in a really long time. He's like, dude, can I hold this girl? Like, I'm really nervous. I was like, what are you talking about? And I'm directing this thing also. And I'm like, and I'm in the shot with him. I was like, just go, just like rock it. You're fine. Yeah. And so, he showed up for he spent about 24 hours and 48 with me shooting this proof of concept thing. And, didn't ask for anything but a water. So that was good.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
we, back in October, we met Devin Sawa at a different convention. And same thing, gave him a shirt, and it's just, we've met a lot of people doing this, which is really cool, but there's just certain ones where like you interact with them, and the level of like presence that they have with you, it's not to say that not everybody seems appreciative, but Seth and Devin were just different. They're just different.
Good. Yeah.
They're just attentive.
Yeah.
It's authentic. It's not performative.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
It kind of comes off in a sense of like, they know they did movies that took time to find their fan base. And at this point, especially with horror conventions being so huge now, and being able to have these conversations with people that they never got to have conversations with 20, 30 years ago, it's completely changed. And so, yeah, it's really, really cool.
And that's because I don't, Sawa's a few years younger than I am. Mm-hmm. And I don't know when he got to town, but he was probably young. So like, you don't really kind of cross.
Yeah.
So I think he's like in a school group, like one below me.
Right.
But he was around. And, there was another doofus that was in the group below me. What's his name? DiCaprio. And
small guy. Yeah.
He was in
heard of him. Yeah.
He was in that grape movie, that thing. And
these grapes are delicious. I'm Leonardo DiCaprio.
I'm kidding. That's a whole other show.
Yeah.
Anyway, we can talk about that. The 90s are a different thing, but like Sawa seems like super cool. I wasn't even there. That's the problem.
Yeah,
right.
I left. I left and went and did the most non-LA Hollywood thing you could possibly do. And then some people was like, "Do you regret that?" I was like, "I've never regretted that." But then you look back and you're like, "Wait, there was a posse." This group called themselves that, and these were like the kids that ran LA.
Yeah,
like they ran all the. I was like, no, hang on a minute. And then you see who's in the posse, and I'm like, no, hang on a minute. I was like, I could grab me and 4 other dudes, and you wouldn't have had a chance in LA in the 90s if we had just hung around. And I'm like, this is ridiculous. And because like, Tobey Maguire is like when you're come on. But and I know all these kids because they were all super, super young, and I was when they were 10, I was like 15 or something. So it wasn't you weren't hanging out with them. But like Sawa, back on Sawa, and he's great, but I don't think I've ever, besides when we were kids and he was too young to like actually interact with or be at my house or vice versa. I don't really know him.
Yeah.
And then like now that it's like I still don't know, like he did a video where he's wearing a Stephen King rule shirt, and but it's also like that thing. I was like, okay, is he just a Stephen King fan, which is fine, right. And he has the shirt because he thinks it's neat, or is he in the goddamn club? Like does he know?
Right.
Like you just don't know.
Yeah.
So I think it's I think that's I want to, like, I don't think we've ever even been to the same show. And but I mean, like the Final Destination, the first one was great. It was terrifying.
Oh, it was awesome.
Yeah.
And
well, if we end up at a convention
that started my crush on Ali Larder that like still hasn't gone away.
Of course.
Yeah, if we end up at the same show, we'll grill him.
Yeah.
Well,
no. Or just tell him I said what's up. It's great. It's fine.
Yeah.
That seems like a nod. If he's rocking that shirt, that's definitely a nod. That's
Right.
Well, you would think, Derek, you would think
Seth has told him about it.
We have, you would think, and I hope so, because that's cool. But if not, that's fine. But Derek, you'd be surprised how many people have that shirt that have zero idea what Monster Squad.
Really,
they're just like the Stand fans.
Yeah,
sure. Yeah. Gotcha.
I think that shirt though is what made my mom so excited for me to love the Monster Squad as much as I did. Is like, as soon as a character comes on screen in a Stephen King rules shirt, my mom's like, fuck yeah, Stephen King does rule. And now my kid's going to want to read Stephen King books because his favorite movie character is wearing this shirt.
A shirt that you can't buy. So, Sean Crenshaw made this thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Like in the kitchen.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
Like he got the iron out. Like he had to ask Emily to, hey, where's the iron? And got the shrinky dink vinyl lettering and ironed it on there, which is interesting. When you talk about something that now, a ton of people know it. This shirt became a piece of film iconography.
Yeah, it really has.
That blows my mind, and it really shouldn't have been a thing, because it was really just a character description in the script,
right?
That I don't even know. I think Fred was like, or Shane was like, no. Like, told the costumer, was like, no, you got to make that shirt, because I think he actually wears it, because it could have very easily just been a character description.
Right.
And it's like, no, this kid's wearing a homemade shirt that says Stephen King. It's like, who does that? And doesn't get his ass kicked every recess, right?
And was a little undersized.
It was snug.
Is that an extra medium?
It was. I think it was an extra medium. It was a medium, and it's still tiny. But and everybody gets kicks at it when they see it. Like, this is so small. I'm like, I know.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, you could see the reaction on people's faces when you bring it out in the documentary. They're like, what? It's like an artifact.
Yeah.
It is. It actually got. It's almost tantamount, because this doesn't travel around a lot, because Eric still has it, but we didn't know this whole Monster Squad thing was going to blow up in 2006. And Fred Decker, when we did the first cast reunion screening at the first single screen Alamo Draft House in Austin, which was like above a store, or like it was an awesome venue. He gave Eric Vespi the amulet.
Oh, wow.
And Eric's like, okay, here, thanks for having me. He goes, no, you can have it.
Oh, wow.
And I think Fred's like, wait, I never should have given that away.
He regrets that.
Because there's only two of those. Like, it's a handmade type of thing. And like, when you're holding, I held it in the movie. I was like, this is neat. And so Eric has that. And we've seen it, and we've brought it out before. And there's a cool bit. You get to see it. I'll remind you guys, because now I can talk about it. Nice. But like the shirt, like it was sitting in a bag in a box, like it in our garage for like 35 years. And it never came, like it was just there. Like I never used it for anything. And even when we were doing like conventions, and I was like, oh yeah, no, people are making, like, I'm not bringing the real one. This will get totally swiped. I'm like, there's no way this thing's coming out. And so I'm glad that when we were making the documentary, that I was like, oh, I'm gonna do something cool. And because a lot of people wore theirs in their interviews, I was like, really? I was like, you can wear your own shirt, but like, I'm like, oh, doing an interview I gotta wear my Stephen King rule shirt. And you're right, that I wanted it as a setup, and I wanted to get it on camera. Every time we actually showed the shirt, people lost their mind. And
how can you not?
Because and I knew it would have an impact. That's something I was definitely for sure. But what's funny is, and they clown me, like my crew that made, led by Henry, and this is a Wes Caldwell bit, like when you see it in the documentary, I'm sure they would sit around and curse me, for putting them through all this for 10 months. But every time I did the thing, I was very honored. I did the exact same setup. I said, well, since you're wearing your light, here's the action. And so like I did the same thing. So I was very robotic, and everybody lost it. But I was trying to prompt the reaction, because I knew we'd want it at some point to have.
Yeah.
And when we were cutting the movie, Wes was he said, "Hey, I made something, but I don't know if you're gonna like it." And I was like, "What are you talking about?" He's like, I cut together like a bit. I was like, "Fuck yeah, let's see it." Like I'm at the production office and Henry's cutting the movie in the other room, and I go into Wes's room, and he's like, I just made this because I thought it was fun, and but you may not you may get mad. That's what he's talking about. And so he shows it to me. I was like, I literally think this is the best thing we put in this movie.
Yeah, right.
And Henry's over there in the other room sweating for months putting this movie together. And Wes does this 90-second bit, which is the best thing in the whole thing. And I'm like, Wes, how could I get mad at this? He goes, well, I kind of make fun, it's poking fun. I said, I'm absolutely a target to be made fun of here.
Right.
And
it totally
because I do the same thing.
Like
and it's about how small the shirt is. I was like, he cut it together so perfectly that he told a story in that 30 seconds.
Right.
100%.
And I was like, this is absolutely fantastic. I was like, now we just have to decide where we're putting this in the movie.
Right.
And Henry's like, what? He's like, I'm trying to craft this masterpiece. And Wes is like, I just made a funny thing that I'm laughing my balls off with. And I was like, we got to find a place for it.
Right.
And so I think we found, I was like, I love, in credit sequences, that's got to be what we lead with. And
it's perfect right there. For sure.
It really is. And I love the fact that Wes made that and was a little apprehensive about even showing it to me. I was like, I'm not mad. We have to use this in the movie. Yeah. He's like, no. I was like, no, this is absolutely.
It would have been great if it wasn't the reaction shots. It was just a compilation of you doing the exact same robotic presentation of the shirt.
Here's the
and then the last part that's the parts where they say how small he is.
Yeah. It's like, oh. And but it was because I think I was trying to I wasn't hamming it up on purpose, but I was trying to hit the point home with each interviewee that this is the action. And I said that only if you were in this 3 or 4 man crew would this grate on you, but I said the actual 100 times. And people lost their mind, but Wes created gold out of that. So it was that's look, the whole movie's great because I didn't cut it. I did. This is Henry and Wes and Shane and Aaron. This small group led by my man Henry McComas, who just made his writer director debut on a movie called The Camp Host. That's a Tubi original. So go watch The Camp Host original if you like Wolfman. The guy who basically did that with me did his first writer director debut. The Camp Host on Tubi. Go watch it. And then talk about it and follow him at H Dilla and tell him you liked it and that I sent you. I don't get anything for it, but sometimes he buys me. He'll treat me to tacos.
Nice. A handful of money just comes in from off screen,
or just a taco, which is totally fine. But see, that's all those things are all kind of mixed in with. It's just been this weird kind of, fascinating kind of thing that's all kind of connected.
Right.
And yet it has nothing to do with anything, yet it's the fabric of everything, but it had disappeared for so long and now came back with a vengeance.
Right.
And is now a thing and influenced a ton of other things. And
well, that was one of the things that I wanted to ask where, I remember.
Oh, there's questions in this show? Hold on. Hold on a minute.
I didn't prep you at all.
Later, guys.
Because I was born in 85, but I was lucky enough to have a mom that exposed me to everything 80s within the first handful of years. So I remember renting Monster Squad from the store down the road and watching it at 4 or 5 years old. And I had seen I think Halloween 2 or Halloween 4 before that. Terrified me. But then the Monster Squad, it was funny. It's funny that we're just finished talking about the t-shirt where immediately, I remember even at that age being like, oh, these kids are cool. I immediately connected to where even though there's scary stuff in the movie for a 5-year-old, 6-year-old, the film is grounded with these kids that feel nerdy and goofy, just like you are. So, or just like I felt. So it allows you to go on that journey and be around all of these things and not be scared for a kid. So I was obsessed with the movie growing up, and just absolutely obsessed. And then by the time like the mid 90s happened, like I didn't have, I didn't have the VHS. DVDs weren't a thing. So like I didn't see it until the anniversary DVD came out, and it was either 2006. I think you mentioned it a minute ago, either 2006 or 7.
It came out in 7, yeah.
Right. And I remember walking into, I think it was a Hastings, and I caught it out of the corner of my eye, and I was like, holy shit. I was like, I haven't seen this movie in so long. and I went home and watched it, and it was like really like finding like a long lost friend. So, and then, years later, it's like, oh, we did release and did shirts, and like, it's everyone comes out of the woodworks, and they're like, oh my God, I love this fucking movie. And like, I worshiped this as a kid.
Yeah.
When did you guys realize that all of this, like this fan base had grown over the years? And how did that even come about?
Well, we didn't know for 19 years.
That's wild.
Because the movie came out, as some of you may know or may not know, or your, followers review it, like the movie opens and then bombs.
Yeah.
The movie bombs and disappears for a couple of reasons. And one is they didn't give us some time for, schoolyard, word of mouth, or, neighborhood.
Right.
Or, hey, you got to go see this movie with me next weekend, because it was gone. And that's unfair, because back then, I mean, the short version of it is there's somebody that, sets an arbitrary number of box office return for a new release. Right. If it doesn't reach this number by Sunday afternoon, it's gone. And that happened with Monster Squad for, whatever reason you want to, pull out. And we interrogated a little of that in documentary. Was it the rating? Was it the marketing? Was it the, the reviews?
Yeah.
The Lost Boys.
The
Lost Boys release, right?
It's got a PG-13,
I got a 13, and which that's probably the biggest of the 4 or 5 things you can kind of drill down to, because the 13 means someone 18-year-old has to come with you, and like
right.
And back in this day, like parents aren't going to go to the movie; they want to drop you off and get rid of you for a couple hours,
right? Yeah. That's the whole point. Of sending
so you're not going to get in.
Yeah.
And then even if you can get in, the 15, 16-year-olds are not going to go see this movie, because the marketing that they see on it's a little campy, a little kid-like, except for the dark, scary shit, which was also
right.
They're going to go see Lost Boys twice, and they're not going to go to a kids movie. Now, the 9 and 10 and 11-year-olds, they're like, hell no, they're not going to see this movie. There's like wolfmen blowing up and like virgins getting killed. Like, what is happening? And there's a body count. Like Monster Squad has a body count. They're like, you're not going to see this movie. So it was a little too much for the 9, 10, 11s, and it wasn't, cool enough for the 15, 16. So there's that very small window of kids, which in 87, no one knew that was an actual target audience, which they now know. So I think we made the first tween movie.
Yeah. It's kind of funny when you think about it, because there's so many kid gang movies from the 80s. You would think that they actually knew what they were doing.
But not with a body count, and not with the language, and not with the because not long after that, like you can't remake you can't do one thing in a movie now that we did in that movie. It can't be the language, it can't be the situations, it can't be the kids in peril, it can't be the violence, it can't be the weapons, it can't be shit blowing up, it can't be Rudy drinking a beer asking if a girl has done it before or not.
Smoking a cigarette.
Don't smoke a cigarette in a dry kindling treehouse, Rudy. That's not very smart.
And you get called a butt love.
The introducing scene of Rudy where he lights a fucking match off of his shoe and smokes a cigarette. Like he is the coolest kid in school. Whoa.
In the schoolyard, mind you.
That's 100% why I started smoking when I was 13, as I remember.
Which I think you're not the only one that
looked, and I was like, I'm going to do that. I get the cheapest leather jacket I could find at Ross, and started smoking.
But there was you asked when we knew. We didn't know that hit with anybody. And then out of the blue, I had literally just relocated Derek to at this time, because I went to school in North Carolina. My mother's side of the family is from Eastern North Carolina. I've been going there my whole life. I actually went to two different colleges in North Carolina. That's where I played basketball in college, etc. And one of my best friends had started a company, and I had just I had just gotten creamed in a thing. I was trying to do this project, and it totally got stolen from me.
Wow.
I was doing a big project in a city in Western North Carolina, which will remain nameless. It rhymes with Smashville, though, and
Yeah.
I can't. I don't know.
I grew up there.
Yeah, I had a big.
Justin's a big fan of Smashville.
Who grew up there?
Yeah, I did.
You grew up in Asheville?
I grew up right outside of it.
Where?
Leicester.
You're in Leicester.
Yeah.
I lived up Leicester Road one time at 69
Really?
Rash Road one time. It was the weirdest address.
Wow.
Yeah, my buddy's house there.
That's
no, so
wild.
because I'm a UNC Asheville grad.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Yes, I transferred. I played basketball at Lewisburg College for 2 years, which is just north of Raleigh, Derek. And then me and my best friend, teammate from there, got recruited to play at UNC Asheville. And so I played my 2 years there, and then I lived there for a number of years after that. And I worked at both newspapers and everything like that. So I lived with a buddy right in Leicester.
What year was this?
Well, I graduated in 95, 96, but I lived there until 98, 99.
That's wild, because I moved up there in 92 and left to come back to Florida in 2000. So
we were there at the same time.
That's crazy.
That's fucking wild.
That's awesome. So you could have found. Yeah, you found me. I mean, Asheville's totally different now, but
completely. I remember when they got the first McDonald's. Yeah. And everybody was like, "What is this? How did this happen?"
So James, I think you're the only person here who hasn't lived in the same city as Andre at one point in your life.
And James, where are you right now? You're south of Tampa, is that right?
Tampa, pretty much Tampa Central.
Pretty much Tampa. Okay, yeah. I've been to Tampa though.
There you go.
See, I'm not left out. Leave me alone.
No, and
you're part of the goddamn club, dude.
My best friend teammate from Asheville is from Winter Park. So his family's like a gigantic basketball dynasty scion family, and his sister. There's 4 kids in his line. His younger sister played at St. Leo, which is not far.
Oh, okay.
But and then now his daughter just transferred to Clemson, so his daughter's playing at Clemson.
Oh wow!
So that's it's a gigantic it's ridiculous. His brother was like the leading assist guy at South Florida. It's bonkers. What were we talking about? Oh yeah, and I was in North Carolina, and I got this random email from a guy named Aaron Morgan, and I don't know, like he found like my Yahoo email address or something, and was like, "Hey man, I do some writing for a news site called Ain't It Cool News, and I've got one of my buddies, coworkers that is his second all-time favorite movie is The Monster Squad, and we work with this theater here in Austin called the Alamo Draft House, and they do like cool retro screenings." And they're trying to put together like a screening of the Monster Squad. Would you be interested in coming? And I was like, huh? And but it really was interesting. You look at timing and serendipity and things like that. I had just emailed Ashley Bank for like the first time or talked to her in like, I don't know, 9 years.
Oh,
10 years.
That's crazy.
And, they had gotten in touch with Ryan. I was like, wait, you want us to come to where? And I was like, I've never been to Austin. That's kind of cool. Yeah. And they're like, yeah, no, they do really good, really cool stuff. And we have a 35 millimeter print, and they want to do a screening. And so once we all kind of like coordinated and they got us, kind of booked, they went on sale and they sold 2 sold out shows like that day.
Wow.
And so we're like, wait, we're doing 2, like, what are we doing? Like, we had never done this.
Right.
Could I interrupt you for a second? Because I'm really curious to what your relationship was with the film at this point. Like, did you hate that it happened, or did you have this like anger towards it because of the lack of success that it had?
No, I mean, not by this time. It was, and even not at the moment. You're just disappointed because one thing, you have a movie that comes out, and if you're the lead or you're kind of, if your wagon's hitched to it, then it's not a good thing. Like, would my career have been any different if it was a huge hit? Probably, because people maybe done a sequel and had action figures and Burger King glasses and stuff like that. Dude, I want a Horace Burger King glass so bad.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And because you know it's going to be
right.
And Rudy's would have been cool. Like I don't.
We'll make it happen.
What we need is Burger King to actually do it. Like we need Burger King to do it. Like, hey, we're doing this. We're going so full on retro. Like they went back to their old logo, like the old brown and all. Like that's right on point there. But Ryan went right back to doing Kids Incorporated, and I went right into a brand new series on the new network called Fox. And so like I didn't stop work. Like it didn't, I don't know if it affected me or not. Maybe it affected how much my contract got written for, but I kind of folded into that. Now it could have had a negative effect. I don't know. But we didn't, at this point you asked like, what's the relation? There was none. Like I had the VHS tape. My mom had it on a shelf. Yeah. And, every once in a while, including places like Asheville or Raleigh or something, or, you travel around, you turn around a corner and someone go, oh shit. I love that. I love Monster Squad. Oh, yeah. And of course they always go, Wolfman's got nards. Yeah. And you're like, he does. And
confirmed.
Yeah,
I remember
respond to that.
I remember one time I was walking downtown Asheville with my buddy Trey and, who I was living with up in Leicester. And, we were going to Barley's or something to get some garlic knots or something. And so you thought I didn't know Asheville. That's wild. And it was the daytime. Or maybe we were like, I don't know, because we used to go to the Charlotte Street pub all the time after we worked, because we all worked at the newspaper, and you get off at midnight and you got to go to the bar too. And that place stank. Whew, smoky. And this is when you could still smoke in a bar. And awful. All the Rudies. But we turn around and this guy goes, holy shit, Wolfman's got an art. And he's like, what? I was like, oh yeah, that happens every once in a while. And then I even had this kid on campus who he was they didn't have much of a Greek thing in Asheville, but I remember he was a frat guy in the little dorm building next to me. And I can't remember when he was dating, but his girlfriend was cute. And he let me know that he was a huge Monster Squad fan when he was in junior high. I was like, that's rad. Like I live next to you in the dorm. Let's go. Like, okay. Yeah. Cool. That's neat. Yeah. And because, most of the time, like we, someone like Ryan and I were in the era that we came from when the teen magazine thing, like a lot of your fans are the teenage girls.
Right.
Yeah. And there's nothing wrong with that. Yeah. And, but then like when the guys are like, no, I'm a huge fan. I'm like, what? And so he would yell out lines from the movie, like if he'd be in class, he'd like open the window and like yell it across the quad. And I'm like, I live right next door to you in the door. Like you can just do it from my window to your window. You don't have to do it across the quad. And
you just hear him blasting "Rock Until You Drop."
Yeah. And I did walk into Charlie Goodnight's in Raleigh there one time, and the DJ started playing "Rock Until You Drop."
Oh, nice.
It was set up. It was a set. Like I didn't know about it, but they got me.
That's great.
Perfect.
But that was our relationship with it. It was just kind of a one-off. I was known for other stuff more. And then they called and we do this reunion screening, and it just blew up because now the fans had the internet to connect with each other on. Yeah. It was chat boards and, message boards and chat rooms and websites and movie review sites. And then we're headlining conventions. And then, the 20th anniversary DVD comes out that you saw at the store.
Yeah.
And Lionsgate didn't even know what the fuck they had. Like it was, and it's kind of interesting with that set to know what they made 3 presses of that, 3 different presses, like in a month. And if you have a certain one with the insert, it's the first one, and then it's the second one, the third one. They sold so many of those DVDs, and we were just like, what are you talking about? And they're like, wow, this is really interesting. And, oh, this is neat. We're getting invited to screenings and like appearances and conventions, like a Star Trek convention. And like I said, that first one was Monster Mania in Cherry Hill. And like, we were like, okay, we got to be photos and like people like what? And the funny about that Cherry Hill show is they had Duncan there. Even Tom Noonan went to that one. Oh, and Duncan was there, and Duncan is so cool that, he's an artist. Like he actually paints, and he actually has his own wine. Huh. And so, but of course,
that makes sounds about right for him.
Fucking Dracula. That's why. It sounds about right. Dracula's so bored. He's in watercolors this century, right? Yeah. And so Duncan's there, like selling his wine and his art, and like no one's coming to his table the whole first half day. And I think someone comes and goes, "Hey, man, I didn't." I mean, I think someone's like, "You're fucking Dracula." Yeah. Like this is about Monster Squad. Right. And like Ryan's got like, we're all like signing like we got old stuff, and like Duncan flipped his stuff, like took the wine off the table and went and did Dracula shit, and it just blew up. And like people were just like, this is what we're here for.
That's awesome.
And we just had no idea. Yeah. And because of Eric Vespi and because of Tim League, getting that and doing that show at the Alamo Draft House, it just, I mean, so many things launched out of that, including this podcast. So not only that movie, but a whole bunch of other stuff. And
actually, it's been the really shirt that James is wearing, that we put that on a like a bright green, crazy tie-dye. And every convention that we do, we have mannequins and stuff, and we always put that displayed really well, and without like fail, like. Out of nowhere, you always hear, "Oh shit, Monster Squad!"
every time,
and like over and over and over and over again. And it's all guys our age that are like, "Holy shit!" Like I always wanted a shirt of this, or I loved that as a kid, and I could never find anything, so I gotta have it now. And it's wild to see.
Yeah, I was at a Rob Zombie concert last year wearing this shirt, and it was just like 50 dudes are like, "Fuck yeah, man, love that shirt." Like, love that movie, dude. All right.
It is crazy. It was
I'd go to that show. Let's go to the next one. Where
right? Yeah.
We'll just meet a bunch of Rob Zombie fans,
right? But it is the advent of the internet. There, I feel like that was a nice peak there, where everyone had access to the internet to interact with people beyond their block, beyond their neighbors. Because that's how I went online, and I was like, "Oh, other people grew up watching this movie twice a day, like I did," and it's like that, and like. I talked to the creators of the Killer Clowns from Outer Space, and they said the same thing. Is they were like, we thought that movie was a footnote, and then the internet happened, and we found out that it had a very devoted audience. The same like Drop Dead Fred and all those like movies that fucking bombed in the 80s and early 90s, but then had their moment. And now it sucks because of the internet. So many movies come out every day that go unnoticed that's not going to happen again. But
we also found out that even in the day when it finally hit HBO and people could, record it off HBO or get it at your local video store, the network, the internet of that time was someone recording it and then sharing it in their neighborhood or in their cul-de-sac.
Right. Yeah,
and that's how Henry grew up watching this movie. He's younger, but his brother had a box of movies, and he pulled it out and said, "What is this movie?" And watched it and was. And that's why we have the in the documentary. There's a little B-roll of when we do it. It's like an old VHS, and we see the actual tape working. It's got a handwritten label, and that was Henry's homage to where he saw the Monster Squad first, and then wanted to become a filmmaker. And this was one of his best memories because he got that from his brother, and then he passed it around the schoolyard and his neighborhood, and then as we started doing all these conventions, I didn't even know people like Henry existed, let alone all these other fans. And they were telling all these same stories that, no, I recorded off HBO and I still have that. I've signed 1,000 of those. Like this is my TDK with my handwritten label that says Monster Squad on it. And that's other movies you have on your, extended play 6-hour VHS.
Right. Yeah.
And, you sign that. And then we realized, I was like, oh, wait, this is a thing. And, in that first year, we thought it would end like after like a couple appearances and then just go away. And it did not.
Yeah.
And it's like, this is bonkers and something interesting. And then, after year after year after year after year, going on 5-6 years, almost even more than that, then we started realizing, it was like, no, this is a thing.
Yeah.
And this movie connected some way. So then we started, paying attention to the stories that everybody was telling us, like a little bit closer, and realizing they were all separate individual stories, but they were all connected, and they're all part of the same fabric. And then I started to get fascinated with that. And then, coming up to the 30th anniversary year, I was like, those stories are a story.
Right.
Yeah.
And
100%.
My original concept for a documentary on it, luckily didn't get made. Luckily we made this one. So my original concept was much different. Well, and it was just kind of a really kind of gritty, shoot from the hip, shitty, like 30-minute short that I was going to put on ryanandandre.com, because I had at this point I created a brand around Ryan and I, and my wife at the time did. She was the brains behind that. She was fabulous at it, and produced our podcast. Ryan and I had a podcast when podcasts were just audio and back in 15, 16, and we felt lame, but it was just Ryan and I talking, because we'd spent so many years hanging out, then we would just laugh, because Ryan and I can't be any different, yet we're very similar. Right. And yet we're just completely two different ends of the spectrum. And but yet we're very, very tight, and we laugh at the same stuff. And we ended up realizing that we were a thing. This is a and I was like, Ryan and Andre's a thing, because we got so good at the convention thing. And mostly when you go to a convention, everybody's at a table and they have their banner, and you go up to, hey, I'm here at Derek's table. Thanks, Derek. I really like you, and so can I get and then they go next door and they go, hi, James. I'm Steve. I'm the big fan. And you're like, great. Well, Derek and James are in the same, but you're at separate tables.
Right.
We came up with kind of the idea, because Ryan and I would always kind of just ended up, because it started off with everybody wanted a photo with both of us.
Yeah.
And then it's probably my wife at the time's idea, as everything was. And then we realized it's like, why don't we start doing this as we're going to do our convention appearances as a duo. Yeah. And we're going to sit at the same table. And
that's the way to do it.
So you still get your two tables at the show, but one is the store with all your shit on it. Yeah. And the other one is just me and Ryan. And then they come up and they just get a rock show when they come hang out with us. And I think we kind of, people love it when they do that, but sometimes we've heard, we've pissed off other people at conventions, because they're like, where are those guys doing over there? Why everybody loves them. And we've never had a bad experience at a convention with parents.
That's the way to do it. That's because as someone who's had to wait in multiple lines, that would be so much better. Because I obviously want to meet you both.
But we also got to the point where we understood what these interactions were about.
Yeah.
Right.
And we realized that we were only there because you guys are standing in line, or, these two gals are coming in here freaking out. Mm-hmm. And then you can start understanding before somebody gets there. They're 20 feet away and you know what's going down. And so we came up with all these bits, and Ryan and I we still do. We go on the road not next week, the week after, for 3 weeks, and then all of October. And
nice. You're not coming to Florida, though, are you?
No, Spook Out. We were waiting to get invited that first weekend in October, but they haven't responded, or because we have it open. We have it open. That's why
we're gonna fucking go talk to DJ after this.
That's the one. That's the one in Tampa, right? Is that the one?
Talk amongst yourselves.
Talk amongst yourselves now.
Is that the one in Tampa? Yeah, because I technically have that weekend open, and we got invited but it's like we didn't want to be in someone's booth at that show. We'd rather be there with the show.
Yeah.
And we had our rep reach out, and I don't think they were like, nah. And we're like, okay, no problem. But because we hadn't done Florida in a while, we haven't, we did Spooky Empire back in 2017, which is the last time we've been in Florida. But anyway, Ryan and I, we figured out that we had this whole kind of thing. And then even with Ashley involved, and we're doing screenings and things and especially on the tour, we're making the doc, we got so good at being together for screenings and shows of Monster Squad that you get questions during the Q&A or and then any of us can answer it.
Right.
And then sometimes Ashley will do my bit, and then I'll do her bit, and then Ryan will do both of ours. It just became this whole thing where it was so easy and fun, and it still is, that it doesn't seem like work.
That's awesome.
And that's, so, and then Ryan and I just took it to another level. We had our own podcast, and because we were sitting around just talking, giggling our asses off, like at the diner. And we're like, why are we not recording?
Right. Yeah.
And
that's with me and Justin did. We were like, we're just driving around and like making jokes and shit. And we're just making each other bust up. We're like, this is funny. Other people would have to find this sort of funny.
Right. Yep. And that's what Ryan and I said. It was like, well,
what do they have? But
we're like, who's going to listen to this? And it's like, well, there's at least 2 girls that used to be teenagers somewhere in, St. Louis that's going to like this. And we found them. They were there. But of course we had, a lame podcast called Squadcast. And
come on, that's a great podcast.
I mean, what else are you gonna do in 2015? Yeah. Come on.
Yeah.
And we did it for like a year. It was just but it wasn't about monsters. It was just we had guests and we just riffed and talked.
Yeah.
And it was super cool. But then it just got to the thing, like, we're so good. And then, we created this brand, and then Ryan and I were hosting events, and I created a show that he and I sold it to Nerdist and
nice.
Legendary Studios for their OTT channel, like their subscriber channel that no one watched.
Oh.
And with the audience base that Nerdist.com had, they couldn't do the $3.99 a month thing for all this programming. Yeah. And we were by far the best produced show on that thing. There were some cool segments on that network, but I sold it to the wrong place because it was a great show about short films.
Gotcha.
And so it was a celebration and showcasing of shorts and short filmmakers. I mean, not untall filmmakers, but filmmakers that make shorts. And it wasn't that niche. That'd have been a real niche thing. And
you're a tall director. I don't know what you need. Only short directors.
5'8" or higher, you kick rocks.
5'8", you'll never work in this town again.
You're 5'2". That's perfect.
Perfect. Only Natalie Portman movies. And I just had to get Natalie Portman in there. Why not? But
makes sense.
We did the show, and then like we were so good. But like Ryan and I together, it's a thing where I was like, we're like the cool Smothers Brothers. In any comedy duo.
I like that I'm the only one that reacts to that. Like, well, who watches all the old shit?
Someone's got to be over 50 to get that joke. But it's the Key and Peele, like the duo, the comedy duo always has, whether you're doing sketches or stand up, or you get the clown and you got the straight man,
right?
Yeah.
And that's just the thing. Like, look, we had it in Abbott and Costello. We have it in Laurel and Hart. Like, this is not a new thing.
No,
but this is fundamental. And we're like, God, this is us. Like, this is absolutely us. And but we can switch roles. Like, it's not like we can do it like that. And we have so much fun with that. And the show was great, and no one watched it. And we did 22 episodes. And
damn. When
it was really
this? I was following Nerdist for a while, and I don't.
It was on Alpha, which was their digital channel.
Alpha.
It was on Alpha that nobody watched, and
I'm willing to bet that it's going to blow up in 20 years, and you're going to be doing this whole fucking. It's just going to be this massive podcast.
Well, this was an actual show. This wasn't a podcast. This was a show. Like it was. We built the set because I envisioned this. What's crazy is because of Monster Squad, because of Alamo Drafthouse, now there's a chain of them, and there's an awesome film festival every year called Fantastic Fest in Austin. Mm-hmm. And I used to go every year until I didn't. And if you, I don't know, it's a weird thing. It's so weird that I don't go there. There's a reason, and it's not. Okay, so the backstory is we make this documentary.
This podcast is just like an hour and a half of like conversation is beep, conversation beep.
I won't name names here, but
we know who you are.
I went every year as a guest, and like they've shown it, and like I feel like I'm part of the Alamo world because in the very, very beginning days when Alamo had one theater, we were one of those original events that kind of like set it off, and that's the monster thing. So we're kind of in this. I'm not in the nucleus of Alamo Drafthouse, but I feel like I'm in the first orbit.
Yeah,
when that molecule started growing, right? And which is fun and cool, and Fantastic Fest is bitching, and then it changed a little bit over the years. But I was there And I actually, while we were on the road shooting the documentary, we're going literally from San Francisco to Virginia, in 17 days. And we're doing an Alamo tour. Yeah. And it's just bonkers. And so I'm calling up the folks that run Fantastic. I was like, hey, we're shooting the documentary. This needs to come to Fantastic. Like, we'll shoot there. I want to do an event. And they're like, well, why don't you throw the Friday night party? Because the Friday night party is always like the festival starts on Thursday, and then like there's a Friday night jam in the bar and the theater is like a huge thing. I was like, I can do that. And so I went into crazy Andre mode of super creative producer type. Let's do something out of the box. And I said, well, we're going to fly everybody in town, including our production crew. We're going to fly all the casts that I can get to come there. I'm going to, I met this really cool dude named Jason Murphy. He's an author and writes these cool books. And I want to make one of his books in a movie. It's really cool, called the Black Goat Motorcycle Club. And his wife was sort of like this creative kind of like theater person and set builder. And I recruited. So we recreated the treehouse in the bar.
Oh shit!
Oh wow!
And
that's sick.
My wife at the time, thanks to Sean Robert, who was a friend and a big fan, he had actually done an article or a blog post where he sourced every magazine and movie poster in the treehouse and listed them. So we used that as our reference point. And my wife, she sourced all of that. She sourced like 70% of what's in that treehouse. And we bought the posters and bought the magazines and bought the figurines. And Allison Murphy, who was just amazing, just like off-site, like I was like, I'm going to recreate. She's like, I got it. I'm going to go do measurements and all this stuff. So she actually built the treehouse in the bar. She even made a fake tree, like had this big tree trunk in the middle of it. We made it multi-level. And one of my favorite things that we did is she even made Rudy's alcove. So like she put it on top of a banquette of a booth, so you could climb up on Rudy's alcove. And we made the window with the curtain and a little army men underneath it, and some like some Garbage Pail Kids cards on it. But we put a fake window in there, and then I had a monitor back there hooked up to a laptop that just had a repeating GIF of right when Lisa Fuller was about to take her robe off. And so you could go sit in Rudy's alcove and watch that, and then like have the binoculars and like take. So it was like a photo op. And then I had a whole like memorabilia and production, asset type thing. And I had my wardrobe on a mannequin. I had Duncan Regier's cape on a mannequin. Eric lent me the amulet. So we put it in a case and we lit it with like green lasers from behind it.
Yeah.
And it was just this awesome party. And we're getting this because this is documentary gold. This is where this whole thing birthed from, kind of, is an Alamo. And then if you actually watch the documentary, it's now 86 minutes, 86 and a half minutes. It used to be 90 minutes. And of those 86 and a half minutes, it's about a 35-minute infomercial for the Alamo Drafthouse, right? Movie theater.
Right.
And we know this going through, and there's kind of this hubbubaloo during, kind of building this event in 2017 or 16. And 17. And it's just like they wanted us to do like, well, you have to show the movie. I was like, we're making the movie. We can't show it. That's next year when we submit it and get into this festival.
Right.
Because I don't know what the movie's going to be, the documentary at this point, but I know we have cool stuff. And I'm figuring like if we ever get into any film festival ever, it's only going to be this one. Right. Because this is where it all started, and we came here and shot this party and all that.
Yeah.
It's the only festival we didn't get into.
Wow. What?
Doesn't make you would think sense? It's a weird thing, right? Yeah. It doesn't make any sense. But whatever.
It's so weird.
I got given reasons by, I guess, one of the individuals that made that decision. I thought it was a trash answer.
Oh, I'm sure.
Of course.
That made no sense, but who am I? Anyway, different story.
So it didn't make any sense.
No, it doesn't make any sense. It's not on you.
I went on 3 tangents there, and I think there was a question, but I forgot it. And
the whole podcast.
That was a great event. I know where I was leading to, I think. If not, I'll just Albuquerque into it.
Albuquerque.
The
stories there.
I was in Albuquerque when Princess Diana died.
That's been an Albuquerque fact with Andre Gower.
That's right. I was driving cross country going back to North Carolina and needed a place to stay. My buddy Trey, that I worked with at the newspaper in Asheville, who I walked around the corner with, that one guy that I said, he had a buddy named Bob who was a manager at Hooters. And he said, stop by here and ask Bob if you can crash at his place. So I stopped at the Hooters in Albuquerque and said, Bob, it's me. We've played poker before. Can I stay at your place tonight? He's like, yes, but go home with my wife right now because I got to close up the restaurant. And so I followed her to their house and we sat there and watched the news on Princess Diana. And then Bob came home from the Hooters and then we went to sleep and I woke up and drove cross country.
Jeez. That's a packed Albuquerque day.
So what was, and that's all you need. You just need one day in Albuquerque.
We had our break. Yeah, we had our brakes go out on tour in Albuquerque.
Oh, were you coming down the grade?
No,
the big ass, just regular. Okay, lucky you didn't get to the big grade.
We were going. It was around a corner, and thankfully it cut as soon as we were going around the corner because dude who was driving was like, "I don't have brakes," and everybody's laughing because we're on tour. And I was like, "Wait, what?" What? And he goes, "We don't have any fucking brakes. I can't steer."
The second time he says it, the whole van goes, "Wait, what?"
And it was thankfully we had that happened right in between a break in traffic, so we just coasted straight to the side of the road instead of getting smashed by 40 cars.
Yeah, that'd be no good.
Albuquerque.
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 Send your at hashtag stories of Albuquerque to on Instagram, and we will talk about them on the next episode.
Side podcast, Creep-O-Rama Albuquerque.
I have no idea where we are in the lineage of answering questions. Because I've really just flown off. I've really just flown. If I'm in Albuquerque, I have flown way off the road.
Right? Yeah. That's the beauty of it all, though.
I don't even know where we were. I think I did have a point. I did have a point. I'm a terrible salesman. So interestingly enough, when we festivaled Wolfman's Got Nards the whole year, won a handful of awards and went all over the world. It was fantastic. When it came time to do our actual distribution deal and acquisition, that's a whole other story because we lost our big deal and got hosed. And we put the movie out. And we had like a 3.5 minute bit of us at Fantastic Fest because this is in the origin days of Alamo and we cut that. So we cut the Fantastic bit out. So the movie that got released is 86.5 minutes instead of 90 minutes. But we kept that Fantastic Fest 2017 bit as a extra, like a special feature, along with a whole bunch of other stuff that no one has ever seen until October.
Oh, nice.
Oh, nice.
So, as you may or may not know, I can technically talk about it. Last year, Kino Lorber, if you've heard of them, had put out
I can't reach it, but I just watched it earlier today. The 4K,
which is apparently a good 4K monster version of Monster Squad. Mm-hmm. They called me when they were putting that together and asked if they could take Wolfman's Got Nards and use it as a companion piece for the 4K. And I said, well, that would be amazing because our current distributor was not interested in physical media. And I was like, do you know anything about Monster Squad?
Yeah.
And
what? Did none of you watch the documentary?
Right?
No, I mean, this is before. Yeah, this is did you watch the movie you acquired?
Right.
Like, really? And I mean, they had the thing with Amazon where you could like demand, and then Amazon would print this. Some came out like shit. So it's bad.
Yeah.
And I said, well, you guys lost a lot of revenue because when you made this movie, like you'd probably sell, I don't know, about 10,000 of them this weekend.
Yeah.
Sure. And they're like, we're not interested in physical. So anyway, Kino, I was like, well, this is one way to get a Blu-ray version physical that people can collect. Yeah, it's a companion piece to the movie, but okay, that's fine. That would be rad. And in my conversation with Kino Lorber, I mentioned the extra features that we had. And he goes, wait, how much extra features do you have? I said, well, we have exactly 1 hour because we edit it and it's all produced and it's extended scenes, extended interviews, music video, the Fantastic Fest bit, other interviews that aren't in the movie, hijinks on the road. And he's like, okay, this is what I want.
That's great.
We're going to put it with
an interview with Liam Neeson.
There's still time.
I wish.
I was going to be Dracula, but then I wasn't. And then I was going to be this other guy, and then I wasn't.
And now I'm just shooting Taken 9.
And then a hand comes in with a bunch of money.
And tacos.
I'm in a new movie called Bin Took. I done been took. Done been took.
It's a Chinese story about.
It's a Chinese kung fu movie based in the Deep South in the 70s.
Done been took.
Yeah,
with a bunch of bearded gentlemen, and it's been done took.
And he plays Dracula.
And he, finally, the locals think he's Dracula because he looks different. And he's like, no, and he has to, it's a whole thing.
No, I'm just British.
It's a British Asian man in Deep South in the 70s. Been done took. It's a Taken movie. It's the original Taken movie where they ripped off. So we could make this movie.
Yeah.
Hey, kickstart that. Right, with the movie tomorrow. We'll get him. Like, I got the team. I got the production team. I can do it. But anyway, so Kino Lorber. Let me get back to my sales pitch.
Right.
Is like, okay, we're going to do this, but I want to release that as a standalone with the extra features because no one's seen it. I said, I think we could put that together. So there were some, legalese and some paperwork, and they are finally getting around to putting it out this October. So Wolfman's Got Nards is getting released as a special edition Blu-ray from Kino. So go to Kino or talk about it. It's not on sale yet. I don't think they haven't announced it, but they've allowed me to mention it.
Nice.
And awesome. In October you should be able to order it. But like go there and say we want it now. Like put your hashtag them or something. And
that's awesome.
However the kids do it now. And
cool.
So hopefully you can get your actual physical version of Wolfman's Got Nards with 60 minutes of bonus features.
That's killer.
Really cool, it's some cool stuff.